Hello and welcome back, my stylish friends. Today I want to show you how to do granny square stitch. So you work in granny stitch in squares. We will be working only 4 rows, and this will be our foundation for the next year, our 2024 granny square stitch blanket. I will be using 7mm hook, and I will be using 2 different color yarn from Lion brand, Pound of Love in color white and Oxford gray. We start with the slip knot, and then we will chain 4. In order to do the chain stitch, you will yarn over on your hook and you pull through the stitch. And you repeat this process until you have 4 stitches. Once you have 4 stitches, you do not count the loop on your hook. You go back with your hook to the first stitch, place your hook through, pull yarn through both loops, and that will be the slip stitch that we will connect our first circle. I move my tail to the right because I believe it's easier to work that way. So now we will start our first row, and we will start by chain 3. That will be replacement for first double crochet stitch. And then we will make in the circle 2 double crochet stitches. To make double crochet stitch, you yarn over. You should have 2 loops on your hook. Put your hook through the circle. Pull yarn through. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over again. Pull yarn through 2 loops. Yarn over again and pull through 2 loops again, closing the stitch. We repeat the same process by yarn over, going into the circle, pulling yarn through, and closing 2 loops at a time to make another double crochet stitch. So granny stitch is combination of chain stitches and double crochet stitches. We make our first cluster. Now we will chain 2, and that will be the corner of the square. Just like that, each corner will be separating clusters by chain 2. And that's very important because you need extra space on a corner to fit 2 clusters. So once you finish your first cluster, your next cluster you start with regular double crochet stitch. And if you need more detailed instruction on how to do double crochet stitch, I do have slow motion video on my channel, and I will leave link below. So we are making here just 4 clusters and 4 corners. So this first row is very simple. You're making chain 3 first, 2 double crochet stitches, chain 2, 3 double crochet stitches, chain 2, 3 double crochet stitches, chain 2 again, and on until you get to the end of your row. You can also adjust your stitches so they will be nice spread through the circle, those 4 clusters will kind of create a cross in your first row. We need 1 more cluster and 1 more corner to finish. So let's make 3 double crochet as the last cluster, and we will finish this row with chain 2, and that will be our last corner. Let's double check if we have 4 clusters, 1, 2, 3 corners, so we need just 1 more. So I will chain 2 and slip stitch to the first stitch on the top of your chain 3. This is the end of row number 1, and we will start row number 2 by chain 1. Move the chain all the way down. Twist your work to the wrong side. Go under your chain space with your hook and pull yarn through under the chain space and make a slip stitch to the previous stitch you just made. Once you do that, chain 3, and this will be our chain 3 first stitch as double crochet stitch, and we will turn our work back to the right side. This is how I start the new row, but there is so many variations. If you already have your own method, please use it. If you are new to this, I believe this is very easy and simple method to use. Once we have chain 3, we will make 2 double crochet stitches in the same chain space, and that will be part of our corner because each corner should have 2 clusters. So now we are going to the next corner. In between corners where you work in the side of the square, you will not chain 2 between clusters. You just go right away to the next place and make 3 double crochet stitches, which is your 1 cluster. But because we are at the corner right now, we will chain 2 to make the corner of the square. And how I said, each corner should have 2 clusters of 3 double crochet stitches separated by chain 2. And that's exactly what we are doing right now. And when you work in the side of the square, you will not chain 2 between clusters. You will move your hook to the next chain space and make your cluster without separating the stitches. I will speed up this process a little bit now because I believe this is already explained. But please let me know if you have any questions. I will be happy to help. And we will be repeating the same process in row number 3 and row number 4. What we are making here, we're just making bigger square each time we complete next row. And I'm using only 4 rows in this project, but you can make as many rows as you want for the size of your granny square stitch. Granny square stitches are very fun to make and do not overwhelm you with making a huge project at the same time because you're making them in sections. So if you are new to crochet, welcome to the family. I'm sure you will find this very relaxing project and fun to work with. I'm at the corner again. I need to close this stitch, and that will be the end of row number 2, and that's what we did so far. Let's make row number 3, and I will slow down again to show you how I change between rows. Once I complete my row, I will slip stitch first and pull that stitch all the way down, very tight. Then I twist my work. I go under the chain space and make a slip stitch. After slip stitch, I will chain 3, and that will be my turning chain, count as the first double crochet of my cluster. And again, this is the corner, and I'm working the left side of the corner. So this is only one part of that corner. On the way back, I need to finish that corner by one cluster and chain 2. Now again, between clusters, when working sides, you do not chain 2, but you will place your hook in between clusters to make the stitch. We will continue to making clusters all around this round or row until we finish, and then we move our hook up again to make 4th final row or round, depend how you look at this. And let me explain a little bit about rows and rounds. When you working your project without changing the direction of your work, that means you're working in rounds. When you work in your project and you have to switch the direction of your work, you are working in rows. You probably notice I'm calling in this project rows. The reason I'm calling rows, not rounds, is because I do change the direction of my work when starting a new row. If I will be not doing that, I will be calling that I'm working in rounds. We are almost done with row number 3, and as you see, I'm making clusters, 2 clusters in each corner separated by chain 2, and only clusters in between clusters from previous row when I'm working the sides of my square. And that's my last cluster to make. And once I do this, I will chain 2, connect the beginning of my row with the end, and we have 3 rows done. In the last row, I will skip some parts because I believe you will be able to do them on your own. So I'm starting my row number 4 right now, and I will meet you at the end to show you how to hide the ends. And I have the last cluster to make on my corner, and chain 2, and our project will be done. So as always, you connect to the top of your chain 3 stitch and that's our connection. Now we have 4 rows completed. We have to hide the ends the way that we will be able to using those stitches later when we will be connecting our squares together. So pull the yarn up, take a needle, and we will thread the yarn through the needle first, and then you will go not to the first one but to the second. Under 2 loops you make stitch in between, and you hiding the yarn at the same time. So you creating nice little loop that looks identical to your any other loops. You will be using that loop later when you'll be connecting your granny square stitches. Once you hide all your ends, you will cut the yarn as closest to the project as possible, and don't forget about your beginning tail. I will go around my first few stitches to hide this end. And we are done. I hope you enjoyed working this project, and I hope you learned something new. Make as many squares as you would like. Please give a thumbs up if you like this video and follow for more. Thank you for crocheting with me today. Join me next year to learn 24 different patterns of granny square stitch.